Is it good? Are they good?
You don't know who they are.
Who does?
We'll be expecting pictures.
Okay, well, 3:30, we'll call the Public Works Board meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, here.
Commissioner Nash?
Here.
Commissioner Skolnick?
Here.
Commissioner Wilkins?
Here.
Commissioner Cross?
Is excused.
Commissioner Darazinski?
Here.
Commissioner Engel?
Here.
Mr. Fisher?
He's also excused.
Ms. Arter?
Here.
Mr. Casbon?
Here.
Okay.
Commissioner Sabo?
Here, and we do have a quorum. I'm going to break from the agenda real quick so that our two ex officio members, our two new members, can introduce themselves and the municipality that you are affiliated with.
Kim Arter, Supervisor for Laketon Township.
Doug Casbon, Director of Infrastructure and Engineering for the City of Muskegon Heights.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the agenda. You have the agenda before you.
So moved. Support.
By Ms. Wilkins, seconded by Ms. Hughes. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All against? Next is the approval of the minutes from our January meeting
So moved.
Support.
by Mr. Darazinski, supported by Ms. Hughes. Any discussion on those minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
All against? Okay, public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to address this board? If so, please step forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to E on the agenda, which is a presentation. And Mark, could you do that, please?
Hello, Mark Eisenbarth, Director of the Wastewater Department. Yeah, every year, well, back in 2011, we signed a contract with Muskegon Area First. Actually, it's a renewal for them to represent land on the wastewater property, roughly along Maple Island Road and property east or south of Apple Avenue. They've been working on this over the many years, trying to find interest companies coming on the property, building a structure that would generate flow and or have a high number of employments. So that's what they've been working with us on in the past, and they work similar to it for the full board as well, and the contract there as well. Every month at the Users Committee, Jonathan presents the monthly updates to the Users Committee. And then once a year in the contract, it's required for them to come to the front of you guys, in front of the Public Works Board here, and do an annual presentation. And that's what this is today, is an annual presentation of what Jonathan's been working on in the past year for the Public Works Board. So, Jonathan, go ahead.
Hello, Jonathan Seifert with Muskegon Area First, North Muskegon resident. So you guys already received the written report probably about a week and a half ago. I'm not going to read over that whole thing, but I'm going to hit on a couple key points that I want to bring to your attention, and then open it up for questions from the commissioners about anything that was in the report, wasn't in the report, or anything about the procedure that we go through while we're marketing the system. Ed Garner, who's the President and CEO of Muskegon Area First, my boss, he's also here, so if there's questions that I can't answer, Ed could help with that as well, and Mark could help too. So when I first came on board, which was about a year and a half ago, one of the initiatives that had been pressed pretty heavily by my predecessor and had been looked at as a good option was looking at doing something called a centralized food processing facility located out at the wastewater site. We started looking more into that. I did market and marketing analysis, which was actually pretty much my board report last year. If any of the new commissioners would like that, it's on the Muskegon Area First website, and I believe Bonnie could probably also get that to you, or Mark, or I can. We can multiple places to get that from, just to kind of bring you up to speed. One of the things that I discovered during that was that in addition to wastewater being an issue, water was also an issue, things of that nature. We actually have assets with both of those right now, as we all know. So we looked at ways that we could sort of start to integrate that together. Throughout the year, even after the marketing study was completed, we started to discover that wastewater was an issue, but water, access to fresh water for food processing, and the chemical industry was a bigger issue. So we needed to start looking at marrying those two things together. So that was something that we did start to do throughout the process. Another thing we discovered during this past year was that there was a lot of awareness of the wastewater system that we have here throughout, not just West Michigan, but throughout the state. When I would meet with the Michigan Food Processors Association, which I did this past summer with their board of directors, their executive director let me know that they were very aware of our wastewater system and the desire to expand out at Business Park East, which is the wastewater site. But there was some hurdles to that. Particularly, there's a lack of bandwidth out there, no city water. There is a well out there, but it doesn't have the capacity to handle a food processing facility, and there's no rail on site. So if you look at something like a rendering site where you were to maybe have butchering of cattle or something like that, you would need trains to get them out there. That does a lot of wastewater, so that wasn't really an option either. Additionally, we have a lot of options for expansion throughout the county, particularly Business Park North, which is a county facility. And EDA dollars were used to help develop that site. And because it's sitting empty, it kind of makes using EDA dollars for other projects look a little less attractive for the EDA. So we need to find a way to utilize that before we can start leveraging other federal dollars from that type of a granting institution. Kind of got off track there with combining the marketing between the water assets, the water and the wastewater. We really wanted to do that because that was what we were hearing more about was, well, do you have anything other than just the wastewater? And obviously we do. We've got a lot of other assets here that we can market. There wasn't as much knowledge about our other assets, such as the water capacity, the port, and then other available lands that we had. So that was added into our discussions this summer. And it will be added into marketing materials that we're currently looking at developing right now. We give the food and chemical industries other aspects of Plusus locating in the county. Like I said, we have a lot of those. And another thing that we continue to hear this year, just from talking to businesses that we were looking at locating here, and this was something that I noted last year, best practices now don't result in a lot of wastewater discharge. Actually, most companies that you're looking at attracting are boasting about the fact that their wastewater discharge is significantly reduced over past processes. So one of the things I noted last year was, it's not going to be a one or two company solution to replacing the flow that we lost when Sadie left. It'll be multiple companies that we would have to attract. And this is still the case. This is held out to be true. I was actually talking to a company in the past month or so that said their wastewater process, and this was a refining process that traditionally would have had a lot of wastewater discharge, has been reduced by somewhere around 90%. So it's good for the company, it's good for the environment, not so great for our wastewater system. But that's okay, we can work with that. Another aspect I wanted to hit on from the report, because this is a sort of a unique aspect of the operating agreement that we had between the county and Muskegon Area First, was for the person in my position to also work with the West Michigan Industrial Growth Committee, which previously had been known as the Eggleston Township Industrial Growth Committee. We have been doing that, particularly at the beginning of the year. We did provide them with a PowerPoint presentation that I developed and actually tweaked in a way that any municipality can use. If a specific township wanted something, we could tweak it really easily for that. If one of the cities wanted something, we could do that as well. And that was offered up to all the members of the Users Committee this summer. And we've also attended a number of their meetings, including providing them with all of our marketing materials. I just wanted to hit on that because that's sort of a unique aspect of the agreement. Let me pull my report here just a second. I also kind of wanted to go over just the highlights on the numbers, and this is what I presented to the Wastewater Users Committee in January, but I wanted to make sure you guys saw as well. On page 1 of the report, towards the bottom, it starts with highlights. I'm not sure what page my report starts in your packet. I know it's a large packet this week. But just the 2012 highlights, there were 272 unique value-added contacts. Now what that means, there are several companies or businesses that we talked to more than once, so I didn't duplicate anything there. Those were all unique contacts, so there was significantly more contact than 272. Those are just individual businesses, or organizations, I should say, as well. Some of those, like the Michigan Food Processors Association, disseminated the information that we provided to them, to their members and associate members. So that information had a significant reach beyond that, but because I can't actually tell you, yes, it went to X, Y, and Z companies, I didn't add those numbers in. Broke down with 137 hauled waste letters. Those were basically sent out in the beginning of the second quarter of 2012. We had 106 unsolicited emails or mailings to companies. So this was something that I did going through research, looking at mailing lists that we got for free from different associations, trying to identify companies that might be a fit for us, that have wastewater discharge, looking at sort of their annual reports, things of that nature, to look for key indicators about whether or not they were in a situation to grow. We reached out to site selectors, 13 of them this year, a number of them in the Midwest and some out in California that represent food processors. We attended 9 networking events and or shows throughout the year. We had 7 one-on-one meetings, and we completed 3 requests for information. So those are blind bids that we received from site selectors, specifically looking for information on locating here. And those were bids that we believe were related to the food or chemical processing industry that would have wastewater impact. There were more requests for information completed by other folks in our office, but those ones were specific to this situation. We also reworked the wastewater brochures. We moved to a more consistent branding and marketing message, and there's screenshots of those towards the back of the report that I provided for you. It has the new county logo in a consistent font style for the front of the publication, because the publication's great information, but they look different. So if you're looking at 2 of them, you might not recognize that they were both from Muskegon County. The Chamber of Commerce was gracious enough to place a free ad in their community profile. That's a hard copy and online publication that goes out beyond our county, so that was a great thing to get. There's also a copy of what that ad looks like in your packets. We placed, this was a replace of an ad that we'd had in the past in the Dairy Food Buyer's Guide. That's a digital and print publication. Gets updated once per year. We also looked at some sort of out-of-the-box things as well. We looked at regional wastewater system, talking to some neighbors and seeing if that was an option. And then also the possibility of treating ballast water. Michigan's ballast discharge laws are pretty strict right now, which affects shipping options. So we were looking to see if that's an option for us to actually take ballast water off ships and put it into our wastewater system. Mark, some of the management from the wastewater system, myself, and some people from the Department of Environmental Quality sat down in this fall, and actually it was, September, and toured the wastewater site, talked about the implications of that, and that's something that is still going to be examined as to whether or not it's a possibility. So those are sort of the major highlights. The rest of the report I broke down by quarter on what the activities were. I started in late 2011, so 2012 was my first full year on. There was the marketing analysis at the beginning, and then we started getting into more things as the year went on from there. I also, just for your reference sake, put in what sections of the contract each one of those points that I was highlighting related to, so if there was any questions about where those related in. There's a section on governmental relationship. We've got a really good working relationship with our state legislators in particular. And they've all been very engaged in what we're doing regarding trying to attract new employment to the county. And we've had different engagements in different levels. Senator Hansen's office has set up a lot of meetings with particular food processors. That is a background that he has from working in the grocery industry up in Oceana County. And Representative Marcia Hovey-Wright has been engaged in the legislative side, looking at ways to make it easier, particularly for food processors to get loans, and hopefully that'll help us be able to attract someone. 2012 by the numbers, this is a general overview of, this is on page 5 of my report, this is just a general overview of Muskegon Area First numbers. This isn't necessarily wastewater specific, but it had been a question that we've gotten before about different kind of impacts. We just wanted to give a basic overview of what that is. The one number I do want to bring to your attention is the first one, the fiscal year 2012 federal contract dollars awarded to Muskegon Area First PTAC clients in Muskegon County of over $40 million. That represents about 200 jobs that were either created or retained in the county because of companies that had been working with Muskegon Area First PTAC and getting those awards. We're basing that on the $200,000 investment of creating one job that the state of Michigan uses. The federal government uses a different number, actually a smaller number, so if you use a federal number that would be a bigger number, but we thought we'd be better be consistent with the state and conservative on number estimates. So retention visits by MAP staff, 115 this year, non-retention business contacts, 149. Then we get into hauled waste and total flows for the wastewater system by month. There's a graph chart there that you guys can take a look at. And that's something that Mark can go into more detail about if you have questions about the actual flow from month to month. The hauled waste does tend to be a bright spot and continues to kind of trend above what the projections are for that. At least that's my understanding from Mark's monthly reports. I do go into a little bit about the combined marketing effort, just some verbiage there on how we came to that conclusion and what we would like to be doing with that in the future. And then looking into 2013, just talking about some of the things that we're going to look at doing for this year that will be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. Yes. Oh, yes, Commissioner.
I had a question on here. What is the retention visits and the non-retention contacts? What does that consist of?
Ed, do you want it?
Yeah.
I'll let Ed handle that one.
Ed Gardner, President of Muskegon Area First. The retention visits are primarily to our existing companies in the county. We annually, there's about a little over 200 some manufacturing companies that we deal with, as well as major companies as well. A good deal of our work is working with those companies having to grow and expand, like ADAC Automotive is an example of one. The other ones are either inquiries that come through us, outreach that we've done on our own. We get solicitations from the state or other communities, and so it's primarily that stuff that is not based on dealing with our regular calls that we do. We generally target about 125 to 200 companies to go see every year. Personally, we invite our local communities to typically kind of go on those calls, some to go on those calls with us when we can, as well, and to keep abreast of what companies are doing. I know sometimes the commission goes out and visit companies as well too. So it's a combination of working with the existing companies and stuff out of the county.
The other question I had was on the workforce training. What is that?
What section was that?
Major MAF projects.
Oh, what we did this past year, what we were hearing a lot last year was a major hindrance to growth for a lot of our companies was the workforce, not having qualified people here or people trained enough for the jobs that we currently have. So we worked a lot with Michigan Works and Community College, Employees Association, Chamber of Commerce, and doing several major programs to try to target talent to our area. Two of the major ones was called the Pure Michigan Opportunity Program. That one was through the state. It involved bringing in mainly college kids from different various colleges and showing them opportunities in our community. One of the second ones was the what's called the Ready Now program. That one was more concentrated locally, we focused that on retailers during the holiday season to try to help them find employment. We also started what's called an Advanced Manufacturing Institute, AMI program. That's a collaboration with the community college, once again, Employees Association, ourselves in the city, in which we are putting people through a kind of beginning level training program for manufacturing careers. That first class is getting ready to graduate, I think, next month. Here, it's about 13, 14 people there. So we were doing this because every time we went out, we kept hearing, you know, we can get additional growth, but the first question that we get is, are we going to run out of qualified people in our county? And we continue, everybody's working on this in the state. These what they call talent enhancement efforts. And so we diverted some of our staff time to work on some of these major efforts throughout the year.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
Without you getting the businesses to come in, how do you know what kind of education you're going to need to have the people get to fulfill that?
Well, typically a lot of these are across the board. They primarily stem on, like STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, skills, these higher level skills. What we're also hearing too is that even the soft skills, just work ethic, people showing up to work every day, people knowing how to dress, how to conduct themselves at work. That had become a concern with a number of employers that we're hearing too as well. So it was based on a combination of sources. For the Advanced Manufacturing Institute, we actually surveyed the companies before we put together a curriculum, and then we presented the curriculum to them and said, is this the kind of curriculum you want to see that you need for your particular company? Most of these training programs we're talking about are not degree programs. They're training programs that take it training beyond the high school level, but they're not the bachelor degree type programs that's needed. So it's a combination of surveying, a combination of what we're hearing in the field, a combination of feedback we're getting from our national and state sources of what's needed out there, either today or going into the future.
When you're talking to those people that are giving you the information that we don't have qualified people, are those mostly people in Muskegon that are looking to hire people, or are those people that don't even know what we have in Muskegon, and have they found out we don't have qualified people?
Well, the ones that I'm talking about specifically are people on the ground right now.
Okay.
And saying we're having a hard problem finding CNC operators. CNC is a big issue. Programmers and operators. Welders.
So it wasn't so much outside people,
no,
these are
no,
inside people.
When we get requests from the outside, one of the first things they ask us to do is to identify our labor force. They want to know how many people we got to pull from, what type of educational levels and things that they have. They may be, they're going to hire 100 to 200 people. They want to know that they can find enough bodies that are right type, And so they typically don't give us specifications. They just kind of ask, well, what do you got? Kind of let us see the lay of the land.
Well, in the projects that you have listed here in your major projects, Fort City Group, ADAC, Eagle Valley, and those, now those actually weren't things that you got for the wastewater. Those are things that were already hooked to the wastewater.
Yeah, these are already hooked to the wastewater, but the reason we put them in there because I guess we review as an organization that any expansion of a company here in our community hopefully will add some to the wastewater system. It's not that big user, but it's incremental. It's the incremental use, adding on and adding on and adding on. And so it's going to take a lot, to take up the excess usage up there. So we feel helping companies grow and expand here is a little bit more the low-hanging fruit, because they're right here, they're committed, they're right here, they want to grow. And if we can help them grow and add employees and add buildings on, we know water and wastewater is going to come, some of that's going to come with that.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Yes, and with this expansion for the wastewater and for the freshwater, is there any possible way that you can utilize our system in Muskegon Heights for that capacity that we have?
That's exactly what Jonathan is referring to when he says we have excess water capacity in both the Heights system and the Muskegon system. And what we're finding is that, we're marketing both of them. We basically said we have all the water you could possibly need between those two systems. We don't specifically say Heights or Muskegon. We basically said we've got abundant water here, for processing, your processing needs, cooling needs, whatever. And then we've got, and if you have waste that's hard to treat, or you got a lot of it, we got a system that could handle some of that waste streams that other communities may not be able to handle. So yeah, but we're finding that more and more they're tied together. We cannot sell the system in itself alone, just the wastewater. We got to tie it to a bigger picture for people, a more comprehensive picture from start to finish. Start being the fresh water, end being the wastewater.
That is extremely important, because if you don't talk about it, it will get lost. So that's important, because we're there, and I hope you keep reminding.
Oh yeah, that's two of the strongest assets we have right now is the fresh water and the wastewater. Those are two abundant things that we have that other communities don't have right now. And like I said, there's excess capacity in both of those systems.
Commissioner Nash?
And I'm going to take it back just for a second, though, because this workforce thing is really a stickler of mine. And I know we've seen report after report with the economic breakfast and things of that sort, that if we don't focus on our workforce, then, you know, even the growth that we're trying to do is really not going to be viable or retainable, because sometimes we don't even have the workforce to do it. Bringing in outside people, hoping that they could come in and want to come into this area, I think that defeats the purpose. And I'm just hoping, because I know we just did an appointment and you guys are going to be on workforce development, that I'm hoping that the focus for even companies listed and those that are not listed is more so for a direct training or certification for a job. Because to do these roundabout things, and we're kind of defeating the purpose, and then we burn a lot of money. And because CNC, we could get people certified, and people can directly do that, but I really have a hard time understanding why we haven't developed a system in this county that is automatically doing that. I've been talking about this for the last 8-9 years, and I haven't seen a development that will just run people through those processes.
Well, it's part of it's chicken and egg too. It's like, if you train people up for what you think's coming, you train them, but the jobs are not here yet. You know, and
But
so,
CNC has been around for a while.
Yeah, and that's why we and actually, and I give the Workforce Development and the Career Tech Center credit on that. They had started the CNC program right now, and now they just finished up one class, and they get ready to start another class right now with CNC, because that we heard that over and over and over again. You go to other counties, it's the same thing. You know, you can always write your own ticket probably if you're a CNC program. Operators, people are needed too. The same thing with welding. But we even hear careers like, you know, certified nursing assistants, CNAs. There's still a need for those out there, because that turnover is so high in that community. So we're constantly, the issue with training programs is trying to make them sustainable. Somebody still has to pay for them. Or you want to make sure you're on point with training people for the jobs that's right now. Most of our training programs we have to develop with the assistance of community college and other things like that, and so they got to run it through their system. So they take a while to develop, but we have developed those 3 programs: the CNC program, the welding program, and the Advanced Manufacturing Institute program were designed specifically to meet jobs right now. Now those 3 in particular.
The other thing I wanted to throw out there was just to do a out of the box, because we've been trying to develop this processing for the, you know, Muskegon County for some time. We also have a strong entrepreneurship program. We have strong businessmen and a strong workforce. Wouldn't it be conducive to come with an internal plan to develop that processing through our own resources we have here?
The food processing facilities?
Yes.
Well, that was more, I think we were looking at the centralized food processing center. That was a concept to really build a more internal facility to try to attract people to come use the facility, not have to own it themselves. They can come use it. What we found, you can build it, but they may not come, because a lot of the processing doesn't happen in this particular community. So say like down the road in Hart, you know, they have a problem in the summertime with cherries and processing some of the waste and stuff from there. They're actually trying to get federal money to expand their system. So we talked to them and say, what about us running a line up to Hart, and we can pick up all of that. I forgot what the price tag is on it, but the price tag was higher than the amount than it was to expand their system. Also, when you start crossing county borders, it becomes a little bit of, sometimes that becomes difficult and stuff as well. So we really would like, I'm going to say we have, I said Muskegon Area First, really would view this as a way, trying to figure out a way if we can make this a regional, more of a regional system, because that's really what it is. It's a regional asset. It's really not a Muskegon County asset. It can handle, 2-3 times the activity in Muskegon County, but we know neighboring communities have some difficulty. What they told us in expanding is that they basically said, if we really want to expand our facilities, most of us told us that we have room on our own facility now to grow and expand. So why would we pick up and put a brand new facility in a brand new location when we can just expand right where we are now? So what they have chosen is really to, they had that extra need, they run into some problems during certain months, they doing what they're doing now, they truck it, they put it in the truck, they truck it down, that's when we're getting that. That helps the facility on its operating costs, but it doesn't help anything to pipe, and keeping the pipes running and stuff. So it's a kind of a quandary trying to attract people here when they saying we had a rough month last year agriculturally, a rough year in terms of growing season. We can, if we do want to expand, we can expand right here. Also, the state has relaxed some of their standards on how much they can release groundwater they can release. They relax those standards some too. So it's just a combination of factors, but we don't have a lot of growing here, particularly in Muskegon County and stuff. And so most of the process we're talking about is surrounding us: Ottawa County, Nuevo County, these Oceana County, these other surrounding.
I guess I'm just thinking of capitalizing it on our own, even though we don't grow. But we did have a business that wanted to do that here at one time. And I'm just thinking, don't we have enough brain power, business power, and manpower to somehow come up with a plan to maybe develop it ourselves?
Yeah, where you refer to the Ocean Spray
County?
Where you refer to the Ocean Spray County?
Yeah.
Actually, we met with the Department of Agriculture at the end of last year, and they said that's another target we should go back and consider. I mean, we had them up there. They looked at it. They said it's good for growing. That they said they wouldn't process it. They said if we grow it. We already got enough excess capacity in Wisconsin. We would just grow it, do the cranberry bogs. We would grow them, harvest them, put them in the truck and ship them to Wisconsin harvesting. But what we know is that with the processing facilities, they like to be, the growers like to be close to the processing. So if you can start growing them here, growing whatever, sooner or later, people want to process here because they don't want to truck. The farther you take their product away, the more risk you have in spoilage, damage, whatever. So they suggested that we revisit Ocean Spray. These are the Department of Agriculture, from Michigan Department of Ag folks.
Mr. Garrison?
Oh, I want to follow up on a bunch of these if I could. Of course, we have an abundance of water, and we have an abundance of ability to treat the sewers, but we don't have water to the wastewater system. And that's a big drawback. And because of that, I think it takes a back seat to some of the other properties that we have out there we're trying to develop. And that's a huge drawback out there. There was a mention of a well. We have one well. I've got to think the aquifers out there for well water for these operations and the cost of using those compared to running water out there. I hope we're looking at slowly moving east, but the cost of doing that's $35 million, right, John?
Not quite that. Yeah.
No.
13, 14 million.
Oh, okay, to get it out there. Can you do that next week?
Sure, give me a check.
Okay, no, but that is huge. That is a huge drawback. I want to go back to the labor force, if I could. And we talked about the nurses and the CC operators, welders, etc. But what do we have for a term that you used, the soft skills? Mr. Skolnick has brought a number of people in front of us that I found very valuable in the jobs. And most of these people are looking for that person that come in the door, that A, you said knows how to dress, B is going to show up for work, C can pass a drug test, And D is gonna be dependable. Are there any training programs to develop those skills? I think most companies are gonna train them when they're out there. We all got training in our lives, but the real training comes when you're, when the boots hit the ground.
Absolutely.
And I just wondered, for those things, how to present yourself. I've hired a lot of people over the years. Is there training for those besides the specific skills?
Yes, there are. The Employers Association does training on that for they are membership based, but they employers that belong to them, they do some of that. The Advanced Manufacturing Institute program that I talked about, a section of that is dealing just with the soft skill area. Michigan Works also works with some of their clients. If you're a registered person in Michigan Works, they work with them as well. So there are community college, they actually putting something together on this too as well. So realizing that you can come and explain it to people, but some of that's got to be kind of inherent too. Some of this basic stuff, a lot of it, but it's becoming more and more critical that people understand this is what it takes to be employable and to stay employed in the county. But there are 3 or 4 programs concurrently running at this time, and I think more people are developing those type of things. Or what they're doing, they're just incorporating them in other types of training. They'll build out a section on that to say, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the way you present yourself, the way you conduct yourself at work, the importance of being there on time. So to say it's a particular program just for that, I would say no, it's integrated in a lot of other training programs.
And you mentioned thinking outside the box, and that's the most important thing, I believe, in running a line to heart. I'm wondering about, Coopersville just spent millions to build a system for a dairy farm that could pull out. That same amount could have been hooked up to the wastewater system and not have that huge debt. Are we looking at Fremont or even making ourselves with Gerber up there? Those are the old tertiary sewer system processes where we have that. How about some of the corporate farms that have? I'm thinking particularly Dendunk. And I'm sure all these things have crossed your mind, but those are some issues. What I don't see here in reading this, and I appreciate the challenges that you have pushing the wastewater system, because A, there isn't water out there, B, there isn't rail, but there is great roads. I was going somewhere with this. I should write everything down. No,
come back. This is what you don't
Well, your relationship with West Michigan Regional Development Commission, because they're a little more broad in their, perspective in inter-county wide. I don't know what that is.
We work with them. We actually help develop their comprehensive economic development strategy. It says document that these are potential projects for the EDA for federal funding, and so I sit on one of those committees. Many of my board members are involved with WIMSR-DIC as well. We're also involved in a regional economic development collaborative. There's 13 counties, West Michigan counties. They're the CEOs of other economic development organizations like myself, and we meet monthly as well to talk about issues. We have determined that agriculture is something that touches all our communities, all 13 of us. And so right now we've talking about how we can corral every single company business that touches agriculture, whether you're a grower, whether you're making equipment for the industry, whether you're on the distribution end. We're trying to get all those players together for a big summit to talk about how we can more effectively help them. I'm sure we tried it last year, then we couldn't pull it off, so we're trying to do it again this year, do this big summit, and I'm certain that our wastewater system is going to be in the mix in that. But back to Jonathan's point, most people we talk to say, we already know about your system, we know the assets of it, we know what it can do, we're very aware of it. So it's not like they're saying this is something hidden that people didn't know about. We found that people actually do, not just regionally, statewide. They know the capabilities of this system, and they do try to promote it, when opportunities come up.
I had the opportunity to be a presenter at the Grand Rapids Fruit Grower and Vegetable Growers with Swanson Pickles out of Ravenna. Now, there's a community, they have a tremendous amount of waste, and that's an issue there, but going after, some of those things. But the one thing I did miss is the detailed reference to what the windmills, even though they're in the process, where is that? And how can we develop a plan if that's forthcoming to create spin-offs on that, both in skills?
And that's something for Mark Eisenbach to directly address. We haven't been involved in that project as much, primarily because it doesn't involve a company being here that's going to use water and send wastewater down our pipe. So really that's been left up to other county staff.
But how do we make that happen? And I think they should be combined.
Well, certainly, we already have power is not an issue out there. Like electrical power is not an issue. So generating wind power, once again, it helps with the cost of running the overall system. It doesn't help your flow problem. It doesn't help what's going in the pipe. And that's what we were trying to focus on. How do we try to get more flow in that pipe?
Even the prohibitive cost of bringing the water in from the Heights or Muskegon well water has got to be abundant in that area as a temporary means of.
There is a limitation on how much you can draw from that, well, from my understanding.
But don't dry up Wolf Lake.
Then you'll be calling and say, hey, I think it won't.
When the lake's up, it's your fault. When it's down, it's your fault. I'll guarantee it.
Yes. Well, and I think what we need to do in this case is to continue to proceed, because if you listen, it sounds like we don't have the talent here, and the people, we've got people in this county that are just as smart as anybody in the world, and that talent is here. It's just a matter of choosing them and picking them. And I think that we need to go ahead. I know that the windmills and all of that are not going with this at this moment, but this is a great idea, and I think we need to move ahead with it, because we've got educated people here.
Yeah, well, like I said, the talent issue is not a Muskegon problem. It's not a state problem, really. It's a national problem at this particular. And so we're no different than other communities in that regard. And we can create training programs as needed. If a company comes, like, for instance, the battery project, and I don't know, you probably get one of your batteries now, but we at MCC, the program is already designed for battery technicians and so forth. If that project happened, the curriculum is already set to send people through that system. So we can create these programs. If we get a new company coming in saying, you haven't got as many people we need in this particular field, we can get it up and running pretty quickly. So yeah, we don't mean to say that we're lacking behind other communities. We're just saying it's a problem nationally in terms of getting right people in careers and getting people trained for what we want to do. The one thing we have tried to do to respond to that, you may have seen the document. If you haven't seen it, you should have. It's called a high jobs list, or this list really our emerging jobs that we have. It's a 6-month look at the type of positions that we have the most for right now. And that's a collaborative project between Michigan Works, us, and a number of other organizations as well, to try to really communicate to people, these are the jobs we got right now, and we're going to dig down in that to start talking about the training program. What you haven't signed is a companion piece that goes along with that, which basically will tell people who's doing the training, where is that, where you can get trained up, how long will it take, so forth. That's the companion piece to the high job list. If you don't have one of those, we need to make sure you get them.
Commissioner Wilkins? I'm sorry, Commissioner Hughes, I'm sorry.
I applaud your efforts towards education, but that really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the wastewater marketing. And I do wonder, I got a couple questions.
Okay.
On wastewater marketing. When you found out that the cherry growers wanted to stay where the cherries are grown, where did you go from there? Did you look at people that need wastewater? I mean, we're equipped to take really damaged water and take care of it. Did you look into those businesses?
We used to look, locally, we look, I say regionally, we've looked at most of the industries that would need that resource, the most of the ones who's having problems. You know, we've either talked to individual companies or we talked to their associations to find out, hey, what would it take? Hey, you know, we got this great thing over here, why ain't anybody looking at us, you know? And that's why they came up and said, you know, wastewater is one of our issues. That's not our only issue, you know, as it's on the list of maybe top 5 reasons, but it's not the only thing.
Well, what do we need to do? I mean, what should we do to attract more business?
Here's what we got, and the whole plan is not there for what we're trying to move forward. We want to start reaching out a little bit farther than we have reaching now. So, and I've got to try to get some additional monies to do this because, you know, everybody locally says they know about us. We know you're here. If we want to expand, we're going to do it on our own site. And so we want to reach out a little bit more nationally and even globally, but it's going to require us to go to some trade shows even. We're looking at doing some more electronic publications. We're looking at working with specific site consultants. We may have to go to them to physically get on the plane and go.
And you haven't done any of that yet?
We haven't had the budget to do it. We haven't had to. We don't really have a full wastewater budget. The money we get from the contract pretty much supports not the entire salary of even one person at our agency. So Muskegon Ever First has to have a big marketing budget, and knows that the wastewater itself have a marketing budget. So instead of asking the wastewater committee to put in more money, I'm trying to go back and see can we raise that. We estimate we may need at least $20,000-$30,000 this year to do all of it.
With the money that you had last year, what would you say was your biggest accomplishment for the wastewater?
I would say the hallway stuff, the hall waste.
How many more did you add to our wastewater?
I'll let Jonathan start. This is the guy who's working with it every day, so I'm going to let him answer some of this question. I'm going to put him on.
It's Jonathan Seifert again, Senior First. The hauled waste month to month, if you look at the total for 2012, hauled waste was 33.6 million gallons, which was up from 28.2 million gallons in 2011. That's on page 6. And then the average monthly flow was 2.8 million gallons, up from 2.35 million gallons in 2011. And you can see the monthly fluctuations there. So that's how much the difference is between the 2 years.
So basically 5%.
Yeah.
How many new haulers did you bring in?
I'm not sure the exact number of new haulers. We had 77 hauling contracts as of October 5th, 2012. Most of those came within the Oceano, Kent, Ottawa, Muskegon County area.
But you don't know how many new ones we actually got?
No, I don't, because I don't have the numbers from the year before. We do have numbers on, like I said, on the
I guess I thought this was going to be something that you were going to show us to explain to us what kind of benefit you provided to the wastewater as far as marketing. And without that kind of information, it doesn't seem like we have any concrete information about what you actually provided to the wastewater.
I have the numbers on how many contacts that we've made to reach out to get new business.
And how many of those have brought in new business?
Those ones that we did after new business, let me get back to that page just a second. You know, I do apologize, I don't have that number right here. What we did, but we did do something to try to net that number in, because that was a question that I did have as well. When a new hauler comes in, they have to fill out a permit to use the wastewater system. And we added a question in the fall, I believe it was, to the wastewater permit, to see where they learned of the system. The other thing that I did was I sent out a survey by email to everyone that we had sent the hauled waste information to in the end of the second quarter of this year, to try to gauge if that had an effect on if they came here or not. the response rate to that survey was not very good in the number of surveys that we got back. We got less than 3% of those that we sent back, so it didn't give us a good gauge on that.
In the scope of the wastewater,
Mm-hmm.
are you talking haulers that bring in big tankers full of stuff, or are you talking the septic tank guy?
It's both. Yeah. So, but the hauled waste isn't the overall. That's not going to be what's going to get us to where we want to be.
What else have you done besides the hauled waste?
We've done a lot of marketing and communication with other companies to try to solicit them to let them know about this, let them know the Muskegon wastewater system.
Okay, has any of that been successful?
No, because for a number of reasons. Most communities or most businesses that are in the food processing industry, like Ed was saying, have land available next to them to
Right,
expand.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I want to know, where else did you go besides food processing when you found out they didn't need it?
Well, we went through, we also looked at the chemical industry, and we talked to them. We got mailing lists from the chemical industry. I reached out to Sun Chemical.
But they're already here.
I reached out to Sun Chemical to network to find out how we network with the chemical industry. Because networking with the chemical industry is different than networking with the food processing industry, particularly with like technical terms, the stuff that the food processing industry uses, it'd be Latin to chemical and vice versa. So I wanted to make sure that when we started talking to the chemical industry, I was speaking their language.
Okay, have you actually started to talk to them, or are you still in the works on that?
The person that I was supposed to meet with at Sun Chemical left right shortly after they said they were going to meet with me, which was in the fall. And I'm still trying to find out who the new communications person is there for me to meet with. They gave me an interim person, and that person wasn't able to actually sit down and meet with me. I was able to get chemical producers mailing lists, but I didn't, and we have done some emailing with them, but I didn't want to start doing large batches of sending out mails if we weren't using the proper terms, because I didn't want to be wasting money in that regard.
You said you're going to retool your efforts.
Yes.
What do you think was lacking in your efforts so far?
I think the approach that we've had previously has been, there was a perception that this was something that we might be able to do by working with our neighbors and finding companies that were reaching their limits nearby and saying, you're already aware of us, this isn't a far stretch for you, you're aware of West Michigan, let's see if we can expand here. That's not working, so we're really going to have to be looking at going not just outside of West Michigan, but Michigan. And that was something that was really sort of hit home to me when I was talking to the Food Processing Association Executive Director in August. I was able to have a meeting with him, and he said, that's where most of their processors have available space. They can just build onto their existing facilities. You really need to be looking outside of the state. I was at a meeting in Detroit. It was actually for Ag Leaders of Michigan, and we were talking about some different things, and they were asking about what else we had other than wastewater, and I was talking about the water, and they said that's where we really need to sell it. So one of the things that I want to do is that integration, and then looking at going outside of the Midwest and really educating people about what West Michigan and Muskegon has to offer for those resources. One of the reasons that I didn't go out and do that right away, we've started to do it, but I didn't do it full bore because I wanted to make sure that there wasn't a perception that we were taking wastewater funds that the county had given us to market the wastewater system, and it was perceived we were marketing water systems. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that.
Besides the chemical and the agricultural, what other areas have you explored that really have a big need for the kind of wastewater facility we have?
Those are the two big ones that we really looked at that I've had the time to drill into. I'm sure there are other industries out there, but
so far one of those is the only one you've done anything with. You haven't really done anything with chemicals yet. Just
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention a couple things, not exactly questions of you two guys, but staff does a remarkable job at looking at what's going on around here. And I know, for instance, there were some questions on running pipes. When the cheese plant went in, we offered an alternative which would have been more economical than what they chose to come to here. But they preferred, and this is kind of what you guys are talking about. They prefer to have a system that they control to run. And so you can offer whatever you choose, but you can't make someone come here. You can't make them do it. They have to want to.
Right.
So part of it is the overall, I don't want to use the word recession, but the correction that we went through starting in 2008 that we're coming out of, that has been actually worldwide. So you keep on keeping on. That's all you can do.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I know I'm taking an awful long time with this, but a point that was made earlier is the fact that businesses, that any business that is using wastewater, if they're doing anything new, would want to try to minimize the use of wastewater. And so, you know, we may have to face up to the fact that this is a dying business, not dying completely. I mean, there's always going to be need for wastewater, but in the kind of volumes that we need. So we might need to think in a little different direction. Also, I've been in a number of meetings where plants, companies are very proud of the fact that they're working towards zero waste. I mean, they have figured out, I think Herman Miller has got a plant now that they've gotten to zero waste. They figured out a way to reuse or recycle every piece of waste that comes, everything that they don't use, they figured out a home for it. So, you know, that will impact the solid waste disposal too. So I just want to throw those things out there because, you know, maybe there will never be another 10 or 12 million gallons a day of wastewater for that facility. That's number one. Number two, I didn't even know this until I read this report that the Tholstrup cheese plant in Norton Shores had closed. It never made the newspaper. I didn't know anything about it until just today. I understand that Tholstrup was bought by Arla, which is one of the largest manufacturers of cheese in the world, and they decided to close this place in spite of an effort to expand it. So now that plant is sitting there empty with all the equipment still in it. Is that available to somebody to make cheese?
That plant is available for sale, and actually, we're courting a potential buyer for it now. I'm under a confidentiality agreement, and the state of Michigan is too with that. We've had at least 2 potential purchasers for that. One is getting serious, and they reached out to the state first, then they reached out to me, but I kind of knew behind the scenes what's going on. So we're hopeful that this year that plant will get reused for some dairy product. It may not be cheese, it may be some other product.
And was that plant any significant user of wastewater?
Not really. They had 20 employees, 22 employees.
40,000 months.
About 20,000 gallons a month.
Okay, but that was trucked in waste?
No, through the system, and in the system. Because they did produce and make cheese and send their waste in our system.
And I think all of us those of us who were on the commission when we got a tour of that place. I know I went through it. That was a nice place. I was surprised they closed it. It was fairly new too.
Yeah, very nice, but like I said, Arla's a big conglomerate, and they were actually trying to court, that plant was actually trying to court some additional business. We actually was talking to them about expanding that plant before last year. And then they got the news near the end of last year that they were going to try to close it by the end of the year and just put it back into Denmark and some of the other locations. But they were going to try to actually expand that plant in Norton Shores. But that's one of the companies we were dealing with. Jonathan also mentioned that we just met last week about a company that could possibly hire up to 100, 150 folks here in an agricultural business that wants to bring in their product by boat. They want to bring it in by ship, and so they're interested in our water resources, our port resources.
Actually, getting back to that cheese plant, I don't know where they were getting their milk from, but that was a big deal. I mean, somebody locally is probably hurt by that, by the lack of a customer.
Actually not. Their milk, they had to be, I forgot what grade it was or something, but it
wasn't local.
And that's why they move price of milk.
Seriously.
Commissioner Hughes?
I just have one more question. When you were marketing the wastewater, did you use the fact that we have methane
gas out there and pipes that make that accessible to your business? Was that one of your marketing tools?
No, Mark, is that methane is all currently used?
The current production right now is on the contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
when you go out,
Yeah.
And we don't have the ability to produce more, or we don't have?
For more expansion,
Okay.
Don, more expansion back to the west, once that
Okay.
comes along, there's a possibility.
Okay, I just wondered.
And I think and actually I did think another answer to one of your questions, Commissioner Hughes, about other areas that we looked at. The ballast water treatment, that was another, that was one of the out-of-box things that I said. Because that would benefit a couple different things if we could get more port activity here, and looking at a way to see if we can handle that in the system. So.
Do you think that's an excellent idea?
Yeah, and so that was something else. Another thing that I wanted just to make sure that you were all aware of with the wastewater, there's been a lot of talk about centralized reprocessing facility and specifically putting something out at the wastewater system. But this can really be looked at on a countywide basis and a lot of options throughout the county as for different assets to market. So just kind of keeping that in mind as well. So.
Yeah, I was going to make that same point. It doesn't have to be, although we got available property there, we know because of some of the water and other situations that may not be there, but as Commissioner Wilkins said, it could be in the heights with water systems. Just so long as 15, we got 15, 16 communities hooked up in there, just so we can hook it up to the pipe and get it out there. That's what's going to help the system. So we're looking not just at the wastewater site, there certainly is property there, but anywhere in the county that we can hook this system up to would be beneficial. Yeah.
Other questions? I know you were, I don't know if you were concluded yet or not?
Yeah, I was,
okay.
I was
We
just
covered all that?
So I think we covered everything else I would have covered, so.
Bears
People said, yeah, no, you can burn it now. Go ahead.
I'm gonna get in trouble. But I heard that, Muskegon area first, and I really hope the focus is on the entire county of Muskegon, not just the metropolitan district. I see so little moving east, and that's the direction this county's gotta grow. It can't go west very far. The causeway's a block, there's some blocks going north, south we're blocked in, and for the life of me, I can't think of a lot that's happening east except the windmills, and I don't see this in that correlation in this report. My comments. Hope I didn't offend anybody.
Can I address that?
Yes.
Yeah, we do work countywide. A lot of our projects are driven by who's the developer coming in and their needs. Because when they basically come in and say, we need X amount of acreage, we need X amount of power, we need X amount of water, we need these conditions. Now, one of the things that can drive, say, like a project at the wastewater, if you get a big enough project out there, we can try to leverage federal and other dollars, state dollars, to put water out there or to put the things that we need. Part of the problem at the federal level is because they said they put money in the North County Business Park. They said, well, you guys got a business park already. We already put money in that, federal money's into that park, and you ain't got that one filled yet. And so why would we put money into add another park out of Business Park East and stuff? So that's some of the difficulties we use, but so a lot of times you got to have a project first before you can do these things. Sometimes companies are willing to wait till you can get that infrastructure in. They do it as part of the project. Some companies come and say, if they're not ready to go, we're looking at another community. If you don't have the water out there, if you don't have this out there, then thanks for no thanks. So it's a combination, but projects do drive it, and we get those parameters from whoever wants to come develop, and we try to get them in the best location that we can, but that they give the best benefit for the community. But we do look at countywide, Commissioner. I just want to let you know. We're just not focused on the course.
Commissioner Hughes?
I just have one more question on that. As far as infrastructure, when you go to a company that wants to come into town, what is the infrastructure that we're lacking that they want for Muskegon County?
It depends on the industry, but critical is becoming, and it's really, rail is more important now, and our port really is becoming more important. Everybody's got roads, so roads is not a problem getting anywhere, but the larger components become, the more like wind turbine blades, you know, the more difficult it becomes of trying to put that stuff on the road. You know, you need to put it on a rail car, you need to put it in the water. And so, and we have that, but it's only, as you know, it's only in certain sections of, we only got one port, you know, it's within the city of Muskegon. So that's why you may be hearing so much play on that, and you may say, well, it's in the city of Muskegon, but really we look at it as a regional asset too. It's the best thing going on this side of the state. And so, and all our neighbors know that too. They know we got the best thing going over here, and that's why some of them are looking, not just trucking product here and shipping them out of there, they're looking at locating some plants and stuff here. But they want to be as close to the port as possible. So North County Business Park is actually, you know, could be a good location for that because it's only about 5 miles away from the port, and it has the rail going through it, you know, and so some of that infrastructure does not exist like at the wastewater. Eventually, what Commissioner Dierzewski is saying is that it needs to happen because you can just look at a map, you can see as it pushes out, eventually it needs to get there. We haven't found the right project to get the kind of right leverage to fund it, to get it down Apple, to get it out there. You know, it's going to have to be a combination of private investment and public dollars to make that happen.
You know, if I could just comment, probably in closing, like what Commissioner Engel said, you know, you can't make businesses come here. You can't force them to come. But I'm left shaking my head sometimes when I look at the setup that we have here with our roadways, with our water, with our port, I should say, with our water systems that we have, our wastewater systems that we have. It just seems like we have everything. And you yourself have said that, you know, we're very attractive. But at the same time, as attractive as we are, I don't see much happening, and it's frustrating.
And I just wanted to comment on that too, because I like what Commissioner Engel said, and that's another reason for my comment, is that if we can't draw them in, why not try to learn how to develop it ourselves? Why can't we use the ingenuity, the investment, the workers, the people that we've got everything. We got the land, we got the wastewater, we've got business people, we've got manufactured people, we got workers. You know, how can we piece that puzzle together for ourselves? And then it stays home.
Well, somebody has to have the desire to do it, the business people, and they have to be willing to make those investments to do it. We do have an entrepreneurial group called eMERGE that's entrepreneurial in focus as well. I know, we have an Angel Investors Network group now that just got launched last Friday. So I'm sure some of these conversations can certainly be taking place. It's just, you know, it's like anything else, I guess, with marketing. You got to continually do it. McDonald's, even big as they are, they have to still continually market to keep up, to keep their message out there. And it's always, it's really the stars have to align certain things for certain things to happen. It's just like our port, you know. We've had that asset for years. Now all of a sudden people are just waking up to it like it's just been there. It's been there forever. We've always